Hola, buenos dias, amigos. I'm sitting in my hotel room in Veracruz City. Today I'm going on one of my little adventures. I'm going to two archaeological sites, both very significant in the story of the conquest of Mexico. First, Cempoala, then Quiahuitzlan, and then hopefully after that to La Antigua. Both these archaeological sites are where Hernán Cortés met with the Totonacs and decided to go after Montezuma and the Aztecs and defeat them. Cempoala was the first Mesoamerican city that the Spanish saw. If you've ever read The Conquest of New Spain by Bernal Diaz, he describes everything that went down with the conquest of New Spain, or as what we call today Mexico, because he was there. And he details everything that went down, and a lot of stuff went down at these two places. So I'm super excited to see where all these things actually happened. I'm hoping everything works out because I am going to attempt to do these three places with public transportation, because I do not want to go on a tour and be limited in my time there. So hopefully everything works out. Let's find out together. Let's go. Buenos dias. So excited. Wow. Look at this. This, imagine as when it was not in ruins, this was the first city that the Spanish saw here. Cortés had sent some men to go ahead of him and the other Totonac indigenous people. And when they came back, they said, "You won't believe it, the city is made of silver." But it was not. It was just the way the sun was reflecting off the plaster of all the buildings, and they thought it was made out of silver. The city was surrounded by a wall, not for defense, but to prevent it from flooding. You can see everything here is supposedly made from river stones. The Totonacs found it easier to just take stones from the rivers to build the wall and all their buildings. Okay, this first building here is what archaeologists called the Temple of Death. And they called it that because this temple was decorated with stucco skulls all around it, which supposedly are in the museum here, which I will go to later. I'm not sure if you can climb these or not. Going for it. Okay, that big temple must be what archaeologists called, I should say, the Temple of the Chimneys, because as you see on the top, those pillars resemble chimneys. Okay, this one does have a sign that you can't climb here. My God, it's hot. You can see here in the front the remnants of columns. I hope these shots turn out okay. There is no escape from the sun. You can still see on the Temple of Chimneys, you can still see some of the plaster there, right? And of course, this would have been all white. So Cortés met here with what they're. I gotta get under a tree. I can't. It's too hot. Okay, managed to find a shady spot here. So the Totonacs were, had this whole region of Veracruz. They were the people here, and the cacique, his name was Zicomecoatl, and they called him the fat cacique because apparently he was very fat. He complained to Cortés about Montezuma and the Aztecs, that they had to pay all these tributes to them and give them people to practice human sacrifice. So Cortés was like, yeah, I'll help you. We'll get this guy. We'll conquer the Aztecs, blah, 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 blah. And Zicomecoatl was like, okay, I want to give you some women. One of whom was his niece. He's like, I want to give you and your men some women. And Cortés was like, yeah, we'll take it, but first they would have to be baptized, and also you need to stop worshiping your gods because they're false gods, they're false idols. You need to destroy all your idols to them, stop worshiping them. Oh, and also you need to stop it with the sodomy because the Spanish realized there were men here who dressed as women and they would have sex for money. And so obviously there was, gay men here, and it was perfectly acceptable in the Totonac culture here, as well as many other indigenous cultures, right? And Zicomecoatl, he was like, no, we can't destroy our idols to our gods. The gods will be angry, and this is, no, we cannot do that. The thing with the sodomy, as Bernal Diaz calls it, yeah, we can stop doing that, but no, we can't. And this pissed Cortés off and yada yada. And Zicomecoatl was like, well, we are not going to do that. But if you want to do that, no one's going to stop you. So basically, Cortés and his men climbed up to the top of, I don't know if it was the Templo Mayor or the other temple that we're about to see in a second, and destroyed all their idols, all their statues to their gods, and threw them down these temples here. So yeah, this is where it all happened. Hernán Cortés was not the first Spaniard to see this. There was one before him, Grijalva. I mentioned him in my video on Veracruz, but he went back to Cuba. That's where both Grijalva and Hernán Cortés were left from, because they had the Spanish had a settlement in Cuba under a governor there. Hernán Cortés was not sent here to conquer anything or to take over. He was just sent here like on an expedition of research, and he disobeyed the governor of Cuba. And the governor of Cuba found out about this, sent more Spanish over to arrest Hernán Cortés, and they had a battle right here in this city. And Hernán Cortés, fucked him up. He lost an eye, this guy, and a lot of his soldiers went with Hernán Cortés. This was after Hernán Cortés had already reached Tenochtitlan and was in Tenochtitlan, the capital of the Aztecs, holding Montezuma captive. He got word that the Spanish were on their way to come arrest him, and he left somebody in charge of Tenochtitlan, came back here, and they had the battle here. He secretly surprised them in the middle of the night. And because these new Spanish soldiers who came from Cuba were not used to this area, this environment, etc., they didn't stand a chance against Cortés and his men. And yeah, and that's how it went down, and it happened here. This big one in the back here must be the Templo Mayor, main temple. And it would, at the top of this would have been a temple, and that is where the Spaniard who was sent to arrest Cortés, he stayed up at the top in the temple, and that's where Cortés found him. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yep, this is it. 13 tiers to it. 13, another significant number. Probably, these were also probably columns. Look at this. Look at this. Okay, heading down here, this must be what they call the Great Temple. As you can see, it's much wider than it is tall. Let's go check this out. There is not one sign on anything here. There is nothing to read. So, you know, if you do come here, you want to hire a guide, or you want to go on a tour, or you want to watch my video. Okay, look at this. Great Temple. There's something round in the middle there. And I see no signs about not climbing, so I'm climbing. Platform here. I just tripped. And let's go to the top. Nice view of the whole city from up here. So you can see the difference here between this step and that step, right? You can see that the one still has plaster on it. Okay, I just climbed back down, and this, I believe, is what they called the Temple of Water, and I forget why. I'm trying to remember everything I read. Behind, you see more of the wall that surrounded the city there. And this is interesting. I just walked over around to the back of this, and look how the front is, you know, rectangular in shape, and then it turns circular. And this reminds me of the temples built in Tzitzuntzan in Michoacan by the Purepecha Empire. Usually, round temples in Mesoamerica were dedicated to Hecatl, which is the god of wind. Of course, this was not everything. You know, this is the main part of the city, but outside of here, I'm sure you find more evidence. Well, I'm not 100% sure, but I would imagine, because from what I read, this was a city of about 30,000 people. So I'm sure that there are unexcavated parts of this outside of the main central area. Also, this city was a central place for tributes to the Aztecs. So all the places that Montezuma and the Aztecs controlled on the coast of Veracruz, they would all consolidate their tributes, their gold, their whatever, their crops, their human beings to be sacrificed. They would all be consolidated here in this city, and this is where the Aztecs would come and collect. So again, this is a very important site that many people don't know about. This is another temple, and I have no idea what it is, but it's right next to the main temple. But the reason I'm recording is because look how white the plaster is here. I mean, that is really white still. And another thing that's cool about this site is that the Spanish didn't totally destroy it and build a new city on top like they did with so many other places, especially Mexico City, right? So this has just been here since then, And even though Bernal Diaz wrote about it and it was a huge part of history, nobody came looking for it. Nobody came trying to find it. So it just sat here for hundreds of years. But yeah, you know, Bernal Diaz wrote about it. This is where all this stuff went down. This was the first city of Mesoamerica that the Europeans saw, and nobody bothered to come look for it. They were too busy getting the gold. Okay, so the InDriver app does not work here, and there's nothing. So I just asked the guy if he could call me a taxi, and he said he will. Okay, I'm in a taxi now. So the plan was to get a taxi, go back to the bus station, and then try to get a bus going in the direction of Quiahuitzlan, and then just ask them to drop me off there, because that's what I've read you can do. But this taxi driver is going to take me directly to Quiahuitzlan for 300 pesos, which is about 15 bucks, you know, whatever. It'll be easier, it's really hot, and I don't have to deal with the bus station. Being a little bougie. So the place I'm going to, Quiahuitzlan, is another Totonac site. So Hernán Cortés had sent, when he landed in Veracruz first, which is what is now Veracruz, which I showed you in my Veracruz video, he sent some of his men up north to look to see if there was a better harbor, somewhere safer for the ships, because there was too much wind and yada yada yada. The ships weren't safe in where they put them. So he sent his men to look, and they saw that there was this huge, it looked like a fortress city on the way, and near this fortress city there was a good harbor. So Hernán Cortés, they were going to go there. They were all going to go on their way there, but the Totonacs from Cempoala said, come to Cempoala first. It's on the way to Quiahuitzlan, and we will, you know, you can spend the night, we'll feed you, yada yada. And that's when they were here at Cempoala for the first time. So, heading to Quiahuitzlan. Okay, so I'm here. I was talking to the cab driver. He goes, no, this is just free. You know, it's just, there's no ticket. There's nobody here. You can just go. And we had to drive up, you know, this huge hill to come up here, which I was planning to be walking up from the highway. So you guys missed all my complaining. I know you're upset. Wow. Look at that. There is a ticket. Apparently this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Oh my god, this is unreal. It's like, it looks like Machu Picchu. Not that I've been there, but... So this was a city that was mostly used as a cemetery for the Totonac, the higher-ups. And there are about 70 mausoleum-style tombs here, which is extremely rare for Mesoamerica. The Totonacs didn't bury their dead, but they buried only the skull and the larger bones for some reason. And the rest went into these mausoleum-style mausoleums. Parecen, sí, como templos para personas muy pequeñas. Look at this. It's like a little miniature temple complete with little steps. These are tombs or mausoleums. Is there anything in here? No hay nadie. Un poco más grande. Probablemente personas más importantes que los otros, ¿no?
Sí, sí.
That's my taxi driver. Oh my God. Look at that. Okay, so down there you see the river to the right, and in the ocean there is a tiny little island, and that is where Cortés and the Spanish set up the ships at first, because their plan, because the harbor here with this river, they thought was a good spot for their ships. And that, what is today called Rica, is a beach, but that was the first Veracruz. That was the first Spanish settlement here. But years later, they abandoned it and moved it to what is now called La Antigua, which is my next stop. So here was the first Veracruz, then it was moved to La Antigua, and then finally, and this was after Hernán Cortés was dead, they moved it to what is the Veracruz that we know now. And it was also here, according to Bernal Diaz, that Cortés destroyed all of the ships so that his men could not try to escape or get back. But down there on that beach, from what I've read, there is some very, very little remains of what Cortés and his men started to build, his settlement. There was a church and another building, etc. And if you go down to that beach, somewhere around there, in an unmarked piece of land, you can see the stones of that. I mean, can you think of a better place to be buried? It's absolutely stunning. If I die on this trip, make sure that I get buried here, please. Look at this. Not a soul in sight. So this was another Totonac city, part of the big federation of Totonac cities. So Cortés and his men came here after Cempoala. And what happened here, first of all, is where all the caciques of all the different Totonac towns, about 20 of them, I believe, they all met here with the cacique, the fat cacique from Cempoala, and this is where they decided, we're going to join forces, all of us together with the Spanish, and go after Montezuma, which they were really happy about. But what was really interesting here is that while Cortés and his men were staying here, representatives from Tenochtitlan, from Montezuma, came here to collect. They're like, give us our tribute, our people to sacrifice, yada, yada, yada. Cortés told them, no, this isn't going to happen. We're going to capture these Aztecs. And the Totonacs were like, what? Are you crazy? Like, Montezuma will destroy us. And he's like, don't worry about it. So they ended up capturing them. Hernán Cortés, he took them to his ship, told the Totonacs, I'm going to take these prisoners to my ship. But what he did was he took them there and he released them. And told the Totonacs that they were being held prisoner, but he actually released them back to Montezuma because he wanted to play this game and pretend like he was going to be friendly with Montezuma so that it would be easier to conquer the Aztecs. But yeah, so here is where they made that decision. Now, there's not much information that I could find about these different structures, so I don't really know exactly, you know, obviously the purpose, but I did read that, oh my God, look how beautiful it is here. Look at this. The landscape of Veracruz is breathtaking. But so what I have read is that, was the center, the religious center, the ceremonial center, and obviously the tombs are here. The people who lived in this city lived like on the outskirts in, wooden structures that would have, obviously are totally gone by now. But yeah, thousands and thousands of people were here. Obviously different construction style than Cempoala, not river rocks, regular rocks. I think this is flagstone, if I remember correctly. I don't see remnants of plaster. Yeah, plaster on the ground as well. Oh yeah, back here behind. Look how thick that is. The plaster, I mean, look. And again, this site wasn't rediscovered until the 1940s, and it wasn't excavated or had any archaeological work until the 1980s. So a city that was super important in the conquest of New Spain or Mexico, and nobody bothered to look for it. It just sat here for hundreds of years. Sí.
Esta es la Malinche.
Ah, sí, el traductor, famosa. All right, this dude, Hector, my taxi driver, was the best. I said, how much would it be to take me back to Cardel, to the bus station? Because my plan was to get a bus that was headed towards Veracruz and then just jump off of it here in La Antigua, which you can do. If you tell them to stop, they'll stop and you can hop off. He said, yeah, I got to go back that way anyway. So how about, 200 pesos? I said, fine, let's go. So, and then on our way, we started talking and talking and talking. Super, super nice guy. I said, you know what? Take me all the way to La Antigua. Would you mind? And he's like, no, not at all. I won't even charge you. I'm like, no, I'm gonna give you more. But he's like, no, I really like you. You're such a nice guy, and blah blah blah. I'm like, no, I'm gonna pay you. And now I'm in La Antigua, and this is the second Veracruz. So after Hernán Cortés settled in Rica on the beach that I just showed you near Quiahuitzlan, they abandoned that site after a while because it wasn't good for the ships, the wind or something like that. And they set up here. So this was for like 75 years. This was the Spanish settlement of Veracruz. And this is where all the goods and everything came through from Europe. And there's a river we're going to go up to, but I got to eat something. I'm starving. After Cortés was dead, they then moved Veracruz again to where it is today, and they changed the name of this place from Veracruz to La Antigua, the old place. Let's go eat. Hola, buenas tardes.
Hola, buenas tardes.
Horchata. I ordered a pescadilla, fish stuffed into a corn masa shell, and chicken enchiladas, all made by hand by this lovely woman, who also provided me with my very own fan. So this is the river, also called La Antigua, Rio La Antigua, and this is the reason why Cortés chose this spot to settle and call Veracruz, because this river here was a safe spot for ships, and this river spills out into the ocean not too far from here. About 100 feet from the river stands this massive, centuries-old Ceiba tree. Legend has it that Cortés moored his boats onto this tree when he arrived in 1519. Today, the tree no longer stands next to the river, perhaps due to the course of 3 hurricanes that changed the course of the river over the centuries, or the legend is a bunch of malarkey. Okay, I am walking to La Ermita del Rosario, which is considered the first church ever built in the Americas. Built in the mid-16th century by Cortés's minions. And it is so hot. The sun is beating down on me. I'm trying to walk under any tree. Each tree is a brief reprieve from the sun. I should say that some things I've read says, you know, it's the first church in the Americas, and then other things say it was the first church north of Panama. So, who really knows? Not I. What I do know is I'm sweating to death. Excuse me, why did you cross the road? People have wanted to know for years now. It's the heat. It's making me fucking nuts. Oh my God. Come here, you. You're a handsome bloke, huh? Yes. Yes, you are. And this, my friends, is called La Casa de Cortés, the House of Cortés, which was believed to have been his home, although most now say it was not, and that it was actually a customs house here in here in what was once Veracruz. Look at this tree. This tree has completely overtaken the walls of this building. Oh, wow. Pretty garden here. Look at this. See these coral from the ocean. If you watched my video on Veracruz, Cerebro del Mar, the brain of the sea, was also used in the construction of the Fort San Juan Ulua. And the rest is river rocks, it looks like, and bricks, other stones. You can see a lot of those brains of the sea there in the wall, and I was just talking to a guy who was telling me that a lot of houses in Veracruz, in this historical center, are made of those, and they're actually much stronger than the brick or the stone as long as you leave them alone. Once you start messing with them, they'll shatter. But if you leave them there, they're super strong. And he's saying that's why there's no roof anymore, because the roof was all made with brick and stone, and that all fell apart. But the walls that contain this sea brain thing still remain. You know, this would have been a major place because, you know, this was where all of the goods were coming in from Europe and vice versa. So everything would have to go probably through here. I would imagine this was the kitchen of some type. Here we have remaining plaster. You know, besides the history, this is just something to see, like this combination of house / tree. You know, which one is more? Which one? I think the tree will win. This is what will occur when all us humans are gone. And this place was pretty massive. I mean, look, these were all rooms at one point. No walls remain. Come check it out soon. This wall is almost a goner. Behind the church, you have this, the first Cabildo, which is like a town council, which is still here. Okay, I have a 14-minute walk. I'm walking to the highway where I'm going to flag down any bus headed to Veracruz City to get myself back home. That's gonna do it for this video. Today was an amazing day. I've had a smile on my face all day. I didn't expect to be able honestly, I didn't think I was gonna be able to get all of this done in one day, because like I said, I was planning on buses and taxis and yada yada. So I'm lucky to have met Hector, who was gracious enough to drive me to those places. If you liked this video, you learned something, please don't forget to hit like and subscribe. I would very much appreciate it. Tonight is my last night staying in Veracruz City, and tomorrow I am off to Jalapa, the capital of the state of Veracruz, and the people there are called jalapeños, like the pepper. Anyway, I will see you guys tomorrow. Adios.